back to Chin Music, our baseball show at talknorth.com. Today's lineup, Royce Smalley. I'm Jim Suhan. Royce Smalley, of course, former Twins All-Star, current Twins broadcaster. I'm Jim Suhan from the Star Tribune. We're having trouble connecting with Lavelle. He might be joining us at some point. We're going to get this thing rolling, though. This is kind of a speculative Thanksgiving week Chin Music show. And of course, we concentrate on the Twins. We're coming from the Aquarius Home Services studio. We are presented by Onyx Hunt. I'll tell you more about Onyx Hunt, one of our newer sponsors, later on. Also want to thank Minnesota Masonic Charities and Chew Vision Institute. All right, Roy, I think there are a couple of hot topics that kind of play well together. The big question among Twins fans right now, and it's a logical question given we don't know how much money the Polides want to spend while they're in the midst of a sale, that Carlos Correa makes a lot of money, and they have other, at least potential shortstops in the organization. The one hot fan topic is, hey, should you trade Carlos Correa? That also dovetails with probably the biggest question for you and me this winter is, what do you do with Royce Lewis? So knowing those things are somewhat linked, what do you think the Twins should or could do this winter?
Well, I think all coulds are on the table, obviously. And I think they're always going to listen, and they should listen to every deal for every player at all times. And then the decision is not whether we should trade Carlos Correa. The decision is, what can we get in return? And the combination of that and the money you probably save and who's going to play shortstop then, I mean, that's the decision. On a personal level, I mean, I hope they don't trade him. And the only thing that I've got going against me is all that money, obviously. And they have to make a decision about money. Anybody has to make a decision. Just about anybody has to make a decision about money and whether the roster is better served spending money elsewhere. I would just miss watching Correa play shortstop, and when his feet and legs are healthy, watching him be a part of a really productive part of the offense. When he's healthy in that lineup, the demonstration of quality at bats and grinding out tough hits and different things, I think is really important. And not only to just the fact that they'll score more runs with him in the lineup, but I think also as an example of professionalism and all of that we know about him. So what do I think should be done? I think he should stay at shortstop for all the other reasons of, okay, who else can play shortstop, and the infield is in flux anyway. What are we going to do about it? And then you trade your foundation of the infield, and now you just have added another level of uncertainty. And what the heck do we do with the infield? It's all going to come down to who they get and whether it's important for the money to for them to save that money and deploy it in other ways, hopefully better ways.
Yeah, I'm with you as a fan of the game. I want to see him around. I know Rocco Baldelli considers him the number one team leader in that clubhouse, and there probably isn't anybody who ranks anywhere near him. He's clearly the guy Rocco trusts. He's the guy who knows everything that's going on in the organization at all times, who does lead by example and by word. The question is, if your payroll is going to be like, I don't know, $110, $120 million, can you pay one player $37 million no matter how valuable you consider him to be?
It really is the question, isn't it? And I mean, we'd all love it if the Twins would spend $200 million on payroll. They're not going to do that. My question about how much they're going to spend on payroll and what to do with Carlos is really dependent. I really don't know. My suspicion is, and maybe I've got this wrong. My suspicion is that the Twins are trying to sell a ball club would not want to get rid of one of their best players, have it look like a rebuilding year, struggle out of the gate, and have the fans not show up when they're trying to sell the team. That would worry me if I'm the owner of this big asset that they're trying to get somebody else to decide that they want to take on. What I don't know is what is whether a new owner would say, yeah, I mean, that's fine. I'd like to save that 37 million also, and we'll figure it out from here. So I think it's a wild card kind of scenario right now, and I really don't know what the best answer is. If we strictly speak to on the field stuff, besides the money, there's a question about where Royce Lewis is going to play. There's a question where Brooks Lee is going to play. There's a question about first base. There's a question about Edouard Julien. I mean, that's a lot of questions, and you get rid of your shortstop, and it accentuates as I said before, it accentuates the uncertainty.
Yes, and one thing, probably nobody needs to be reminded of this, but I'm going to remind everybody anyway. Carlos was one of the big reasons they won a playoff series. They've won one playoff series since 2002. And Carlos was right in the middle of all that. Big hits, big plays, savvy plays. He helped them get there. Then he helped them win a series. And, that series he had against Toronto, some of the big hits he got early in the Houston series. I mean, if you want to pretend you're chasing championships, you need players like this.
Well, that's right. It's really true. They've been here before with, Joe Mauer's contract and people griping about, how much there was no question that they had to sign Joe to that when they did. I mean, that's just that they had to do that. Whether or not they keep Carlos, I think they don't have to, like they had to sign and keep Joe. But I think it's a real risk if they let him go. It depends. I just don't see the value. I was going to say if they got some kind of pitching that you just can't get any other way, from a team, if they could rob the Yankees, if the Yankees really wanted Carlos Correa, or the Mets really wanted him, and they could steal a young, immediately, top tier starting pitcher, well, then you'd have to say, well, yeah, why? I think we need to consider that. I just don't see that happening. I don't see anybody that would want to pay, Carlos Correa $37 million for a lot of years, and give up a prized arm. So that's why I say you just have to wait and see. I think they shop him, absolutely. I mean, if whoever's interested, you just tell me what you got. But I think they have to be very discerning about what it is, not only absolutely, in actuality what they get, but also perception of what they get here heading into a sale.
Right. So let's talk about how the infield could shape up, and we'll consider it with Carlos Correa as a presumptive starting shortstop. You have Royce Lewis can play third or second. You have Miranda can play third or first. You have Julien who can play second, and he looked like he was an improved second baseman for a while last year. Then he made some horrific plays down the stretch. And then, with Carroll off the map, Carlos Santana, we don't know if he's going to be back. I guess you could ask who's the first baseman, whether it's Miranda or I guess Royce Lewis, or do you need to go get one? What do you think? Give me kind of some options how they can structure this infield with what they have. And I didn't even mention Brooks Lee, who can play almost anywhere.
Yeah, I think that Brooks Lee is. I mean, let's talk about with Carlos first, I guess. I think Brooks Lee has to be your second baseman for me. I think the future for Royce Lewis, in my mind, the future for Royce Lewis is if it's not at third base, then the other answer is not second. The other answer is the outfield, for me. And I know he ran into a wall and busted, hurt his knee and, playing center field and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I don't think that's every time he goes out to the outfield, he's gonna blow out a knee. I mean, that was a freak thing. And I think he could be a terrific outfielder. He's very athletic. And what we're getting to at third base with the Twins, from what I understand, is they don't like his throwing motion from third base, and which raises a huge question for me. If they don't like his throwing motion at third, then how going to second base and all the different arm angles that from which you have to throw from second base. I mean, the pivot is not so much a factor anymore because nobody can slide in, and nobody slides into anybody. I mean, he can stand on the base, and just catch the ball, turn around and fire it. He's got plenty enough arm. He doesn't have to make any funny throws on a pivot. He just catches it and guns it over there. He can do that. But I'm thinking about backhand plays up the middle, turn and throw to first, jump in the air, or turn and throw. I'm thinking about dive plays, jump up and throw sidearm from somewhere. I just, if you don't like his arm angle at third, I just have a hard time thinking about him being a second baseman. And so it's not that he's big and strong. And people have done that throughout history. People have done that way back when it was with the Yankees. It was Joe Gordon, and then it was more recently in my career, it was the second baseman for the Orioles that became a longtime big league manager, went to the Atlanta Braves. Dave, whatever his name is, he hit a bunch of home runs at second base. You should know this. You're an Orioles guy. How do you not know who I'm talking about?
Davey Johnson.
Davey Johnson, yeah.
I was just letting you twist in the wind there for a second. That's all.
Yeah, you sure were.
I actually watched Davey. I'm old enough that I watched Davey Johnson play at Memorial Stadium.
Well, there you go, and so am I, even more so. And then Jeff Kent at in San Francisco. You can be very successful with a guy that's adequate at second base and hits 30 home runs, right? And Royce Lewis certainly has the potential to do that, but I think really good potential to do that. But I think the Twins would have to explain to me. I'd have to understand moving Royce over there for arm issues, and then what that does to the rest of your infield. I'm assuming that Brooks Lee will go to third. And to answer your question, yeah, I think that Miranda has to play first base until it's proven that he's. I mean, we don't know which Miranda we're going to get, right? I mean, he was wonderful, and then first year, then he wasn't good. Second year, and then he was slow start, and then wonderful this past year, and then fell off down the stretch. So I think he's got the best chance, having played third base enough. He's got the best chance to pick it over there in terms of first base. I think it'd be a decent spot for him. And all of that is assuming Carlos is at short.
Right. Yes. Okay, let's talk about a little more about first base and second base. I have some other questions on those topics. We're also going to do our Booze and Blues segment at the end of the show. I have a more blues. We talked a lot booze last time. This will be more about blues. Right now, I want to let you know we're coming from the Aquarius Home Services studios, and we want to thank Aquarius Home Services.
Scott for Aquarius Home Services. The holiday season is here. Time for family gatherings and enjoying a cozy, comfy home with loved ones. But is your furnace ready for the colder temps? Don't let a faulty furnace spoil your celebrations. At Aquarius, we've got your back. For just $29, our Furnace Peak Performance Check provides that seasonal health check every system needs this time of year. Schedule today at AquariusHomeservices.com. Aquarius, earning the right to be recommended.
Also, welcome to one of our newer sponsors across the Talk North platform, OnX Hunt. Deer hunting season is here, and it's time to own your odds with OnX Hunt, the GPS hunting app trusted by millions of hunters. With the Hunt app, you'll have access to nationwide public and private land ownership information, waypoints, tracks, and much more, all at your fingertips. Go to onxmaps.com/hunt to sign up today. I also want to tell you about a Minnesota company that I just keep hearing great things about from so many different people in different areas of Minnesota life, Minnesota Masonic Charities.
When people think of the Freemasons, they often think of secret handshakes and unusual hats, and of course, the pancake breakfast. Minnesota Masonic Charities would prefer that you think about the work that they do right here in our community. Places like the Masonic Cancer Center at the University of Minnesota or the Masonic Children's Hospital and the Masonic Home in Bloomington. They are just a few examples of the important work that the Freemasons support here in Minnesota. As part of the largest fraternal organization in the world, Masons have consistently answered the call when it comes to charitable needs. We look forward to learning so much more about their many programs here in the weeks to come.
We had a great live show at the John Krasinski Show at Head Flyer Brewing with our guest, Jim Peterson. He was fantastic. We want you to hear more about John Krasinski's experience with True Vision Institute.
Yeah, True Vision in Bloomington. I was talking to someone at the Timberwolves game against the Hornets, and they were asking me about it. And they had also had LASIK surgery as well. And it was, the term that we both have used, and I've used it on the show, is life changing. It really is. And you're going to roll your eyes at it. Maybe if you're wearing contacts and eyeglasses, you're going to say, yeah, right. I did the same thing. I was skeptical of it. I was like, it can't be that good. But I went to True Vision. I visited with the nicest, most friendly staff there that put me through the paces, got me to the right answer and the right option for my vision correction, and then got me to Dr. Chu, who did an unbelievable job with the surgery itself. It does make your life so much easier, not having to go in every year, every 2 years for new glasses and new contacts, spending hundreds of dollars, getting the eye exam, trying to find what's the fashionable frames nowadays. All of those things. It's a headache. And I do not have that anymore because I got LASIK at True Vision. It took me not even half of a day to recover from the surgery. And by the time I woke up the next morning, I was seeing clearly and crisply, and everything was great. So go into True Vision or go to truevision.com to set up your consultation and tell them the John Krasinski Show sent you.
Does Eduardo Julian figure into your plans at all at this point?
Well, I think he's going to have to if they don't have Correa.
Right.
I don't think that I don't think that he supplants Miranda, Brooks Lee, and Royce Lewis. I don't see how that happens. Although, the DH is such a revolving batting position now. He could be, up for as a part-time first baseman against right-handed pitching. If they want to sit Miranda down, he could DH. So, I think I'm not decided yet on him offensively. I mean, he obviously has a lot of talent to hit. He's got an issue with his swing, in my opinion, and his mind's really messed up right now, right? or has been this past year. I don't know what to say about him. I think the other three guys are ahead at this point, and I don't trust his defense at this yet. I mean, the only way he's going to get any better playing second base, which I think is the only place he can play, is to play every day, just keep working and working and working. And I don't know if the Twins have that luxury.
Right. Yeah, that's exactly right. And he does two things that are so important to a modern hitter. He can take pitches and draw walks, and he can hit with power to the opposite field. And it's really weird for me to see somebody who has those attributes struggle the way he's struggling.
Yeah, it's a different sort of I'll talk about hitting the ball out to the opposite field first. I thought that was a giant advantage, as you're suggesting, when I first saw it. What I've come to realize is, I wonder, okay, I see him hit the ball out of the ballpark to left field, but I don't see him line the ball to the left center field gap, and I don't see him line the ball to left field for a single. And if the ball goes over there, it's in the air and sometimes goes out of the ballpark. And I got to thinking about a conversation I had with Luis Ariz. And I did a segment on television with Luis, where we went through all the spots on a batting tee he put the ball and how he practiced hitting it. And when he got to the end, he said, then I put the ball up here high in the strike zone and I try to hit it to left field. And I said, wait, what? and he said, yeah, I try to hit the ball, as hard as I can, the ball up. I try to wait and I really try to wait and hit it to left field. And as I got to thinking about that, I realized to get on top of the ball and hit the ball out in front of you, especially as a left-hand hitter, so you hit a high pitch to your pull field, is very difficult. I will tell you from personal experience, that's a difficult thing for most left-hand hitters to do. And so what Ariz did was say, look, in order to get the big end of the bat to the ball, I either have to hit it way out in front of me, which is not the way I like to hit. I like to let the ball travel. or I have to let it get way deep and really inside out the ball, to left field. And it really clicked for me. It made an awful lot of sense. And then I started watching Julian, and the balls he hits out to left field are high fastballs.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the same exact thing. He's got a very loopy swing. He for a guy that hits. His swing is from below the line of flight of the ball for the most part, and he does have the ability to be below the line of. You can't pull a high fastball if you're below the line of flight. You can hit the ball to left field. There because you get beat a little bit, the ball travels further, and that swing arc catches up in an okay position. So after all of that, I'm sorry for the long diatribe there, but after all of that, I think it makes sense that with his from underneath swing, he can occasionally hit a high fly ball to left field that carries in the seats on high fastballs, but he doesn't just have the ability to wait and hit the ball to left, which makes him not so vulnerable to breaking pitches. That's why, like with 2 strikes, I could never figure out, why did you take a curveball right in the middle of the plate for strike 3, or why did you take a changeup in the middle of the plate for strike 3? You're totally fooled by that pitch. That means you're not trying to hit the ball to left field with 2 strikes. You're not trying to let the ball travel and make sure that you're trying to hit fastballs the other way so that you can still handle something off speed with 2 strikes. For him to take those pitches right in the middle of the plate, off speed pitches with 2 strikes, means he's not really. He may hit the ball to left field out of the ballpark occasionally. His swing and his mindset is not set up to hit the ball in the opposite field.
So you're dredging up a conversation I had. It was off the record at the time. I think it's safe for me to use it now. It was back in like 1994, 95. Twins were just kind of throwing they're just signing players who had any hope of producing a run because they weren't spending any money and the farm system wasn't producing many good players other than like Marty Cordova at that point. And I remember they signed Kevin Maas, had a phenomenal start with the Yankees, hitting home runs to left center field, and then went into a terrible slump, ends up being a free agent, bouncing around. The Twins tried him, basically gave him the first base job or first base DH job at one point in the mid-90s. Spring training game, Kevin Maas hits 2 long doubles to left center. And, me and a lot of people like me are like, oh, good, he can go the other way. That's a good sign. Then I ended up talking to Tom Kelly privately after the game. I said, is that what you want to see? He said, I know it looks like he was being patient and staying back and hitting the ball to left field, but that's not really what happened. He just couldn't get around on a fastball, and he got lucky and hit a double to left center. I mean, so hitting, not all hitters who hit the ball the opposite way are doing what you should really want them to do.
Yeah, and it's one thing to get beat on a fastball and hit the ball in the gap to the opposite, to your opposite gap. That's just fine. If you're trying to let the ball travel, and I think what TK was saying, and it is my point. If you're trying consciously to let the ball travel, and you get a fastball that you can handle hard to the opposite field or opposite gap, that's by design. If you've got a slider speed bat,
yep,
and you just happen to hit a ball the other way because you were beat on it, but the big end the pitch was in a spot where even though the big end of your bat was late, it was able to catch up because the ball was more outside and it just caught up. Those are 2 different things.
Yep.
And I think about Miguel Sano. He hit a lot of balls. Not a lot of balls. Occasionally, he hit a ball off the right field fence or right center field fence. That was because he was just flat beat and on a fastball, and he was strong enough to muscle it over there. I always thought that he should try to hit the ball that way, hit home runs to right center and center field, but he didn't. He just got beat. And maybe the best example is the young man from Correa, the home run hitter from Correa that the Twins have. I'm not going to remember his name now, but he had.
I just absolutely blanked on it, but I remember who you're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, he had awesome power, right? We saw him hit the ball off the batter's line in center field and all that. But he had a slider speed bat. I mean, what ruined him, his big league, major league attempt,
Byung Ho
is
Park.
that sorry?
Byung Ho Park.
Byung Ho Park.
Yes.
Could not catch up with the big league fastball.
Right.
I mean, simple as that. And every once in a while, the ball would go a long way to center or right center, but most of the time that was on a hanging slider or something. And he just, so I guess, we end up using a lot of examples for the same thing.
All right, let's go to our Booze and Blues segment. We do this in the off season. Maybe we'll continue in the regular season, depending on how the season goes. I'm going to go to one of your loves, one of my loves, and ask a very broad question. Who is your favorite old school? And I was actually going to mention this because I know Lavelle loves Joe Bonamassa so much. Joe Bonamassa is a modern guitar virtuoso rooted in traditional blues and rock. Who's your favorite old school blues guitarist?
God, what a great question that is. It's hard for me not to say. I mean, the easy answer for most everybody would be B.B. King. Yep. I mean, he just established the whole genre as popular, a more widely popular genre, and was doing some things, as were a lot of blues guys in the day, that Rolling Stones and to some degree the Beatles and all the Yardbirds guys, Clapton and Jimmy Page and Jeff Beck. I mean, they all wanted to be blues guys like B.B. King and others. And I think it's hard for me not to say B.B. King, but I will tell you that a couple of my very, very favorite songs that I listen to all the time are done by Albert King. I love his. We were talking about sound. I love his distortion and his sound. However, you got you guitarists talk about that. I just love his sound. He's old school, and yet it's just eminently listenable. B.B. King started a deal way back when. I mean, the difference was for him. He tried to play, and I heard him say this. He tried to play Lucille, like so you could sing every note. Yep. If you wanted to, and that's what changed things. And I thought Albert King is the same way. And I had my son listen, who's a Gary Clark fan and a Marcus King fan, as am I. But I had him listen to Albert King's I'll Play the Blues for You, which I will just recommend. I can't recommend it more highly to people. I mean, go listen to I'll Play the Blues for You, parts 1 and 2. It is phenomenal. And my son, who plays a little guitar himself, is a big fan. He turned to me at one point in time and said, "Man, his phrasing is good, isn't it?" I go, yeah, it's phenomenal. So I'm going with Albert King with a nod to B.B. King, just because B.B. King basically started it all.
Right, and I think Albert King was one of the biggest influences on rock guitarists of the 60s and 70s.
Yes.
B.B. kind of taught people how to play lyrically, and he was basically a guitar lesson in an old blues man's body. How to be economical, how to make every note count. There's actually something called the B.B. King box. It's like a little place you can put your hand on the guitars that it's like it really only encompasses 5 notes, and he just mastered that little box. And occasionally went up, slid up and played an octave, but he basically just played those 5 notes so well that you didn't want to hear any more notes. And it's the opposite of shredding. And it was like he was singing every note he played, which is a great lesson for every guitarist of every level who ever lived.
What's fun about that is then you fast forward to George Benson, who was a jazz guitarist, but dabbled into having a little R&B, poppy rock and roll sound a little bit. But some of his very best, his earliest popular songs. I'm thinking of "This Masquerade." He did a wonderful live version of "On Broadway," and he sang his notes and in those songs, and reminiscent of, taking B.B. King to the next level. I mean, he really You remember those two songs and
yeah.
how he sang those notes.
Fantastic stuff. And now I got to go watch some videos of that. Next week, so this is our Thanksgiving week show. We'll be back early December. I think one of the next Booze and Blues subjects we need to have is favorite covers of all time. And I know.
Oh, man, I'm in on that. Yes,
yeah.
sir.
And each of us will have like 300. We'll try to narrow it down to a couple hundred.
And my parting comment to everyone listening out there, please go listen to Albert King. I'll play the blues for you.
Yes, do that. And I have nothing to add. Go listen to Albert King. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Thank you all for listening.